Let's go back to your question. I have $64,000. How do I spend it? That's my passion. This is my passion right there. And it's called media mix modeling, which is as simple as this.
Welcome to the Millionaire Car Salesman Podcast, the #1 resource for automotive sales professionals, managers, and owners to learn how to make money, accumulate wealth, and to all out ball out in the auto industry. And now your hosts, Sean V. Bradley and L.A. Williams.
Hey everybody, this is Sean V. Bradley, creator of the Millionaire Car Salesman Group and the president of Dealer Synergy. And I've got a guest today in season 3 of the podcast, my friend Bob Lanham, correct, from Facebook. He is head of the automotive retail division. What's up, Bob?
How you doing, man? This is awesome. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. Listen, first of all, I wanted to thank you because we haven't worked together in several years. I know we've been connecting on social media, but we actually had the opportunity to see you in action at the Internet Sales 20 Group. What state were we in? Was it Arizona?
That's exactly right. Arizona.
Yeah, it was in Arizona, man. Like that was a great event, and people loved your session. So again, thank you so much for joining us on this podcast.
Listen, it's awesome to reconnect, man. And it's been fun to watch you on social media and how you've just been killing it in the industry. So honored to be here.
All right. I appreciate that, brother. So again, talk to us about, let's first of all, you're the head of automotive retail for Facebook. What does that mean?
Yeah. So I have a small team that handles the top 10 dealer groups directly. We also work with all of the manufacturers and their co-op programs. So that means a lot of road shows and a lot of webinars and training, et cetera. And then I'm also responsible for working with the partners, software partners in the industry. So the equity mining tools, the DMS systems, the CRM systems, et cetera. Because we're an open platform and we have multiple APIs, they can build solutions for the dealers to make it easier to execute on Facebook.
You know what? That's a good point. So I want to steer this into 2 different conversations. First, I want to stay with the marketing side of aspect of social media. Then I want to transition just a little bit about the communications, because people get confused, because I've been talking about social communication for years and years, like over 6 years. But people, some still, I don't know why, get stuck in their mind that Facebook or Instagram is just for posting and for marketing advertising. But I feel that social media is the #1 form of communication on planet Earth. And there's more than just marketing on social media. Would you agree?
100%. I would agree. Absolutely.
All right. So let's talk about the marketing side of things, because on the Millionaire Car Salesman podcast, our audience are obviously automotive professionals, managers, and owners. So I want to start on the macro level and go to the micro level. For a dealership or a dealer group, and this is right up your wheelhouse here, how important is it in 2020 and beyond for them to not just be dabbling, but be truly enveloped in social media, and why?
Well, first, let's just look at the numbers, okay? Here in the U.S., Facebook and Instagram have 225 million adults 18 plus on our platform every month. So with a population of roughly 320 million, and you've got your 16 and under that you don't advertise to, right? We have pretty much the majority of people on our platform. The stat that I actually love to give dealers is we have 179 million adults 18 plus on our platform every day. So, when dealers look to advertise, they look to go reach people. They're looking for what they call eyeballs. How do I get my message in front of the largest amount of people possible at the most efficient cost? That's our platform.
Okay, so do you have any data off the top of your head, freestyle, like the average person in that demographic you just quoted, how much time are they spending on Facebook, or how much time are they spending on Instagram, or both?
Yep. So obviously you have what we call your power users that live it daily, and then your non-power users. And you can think of it as an 80-20 rule, but the average is about an hour plus a day, coming back anywhere between 15 and 20 times a day. So what happens is most people start their day checking out Instagram and Facebook, and they end their day checking Facebook, and then they're in there multiple times throughout the day. So it's about an hour a day they're spending with us, roughly.
So what I learned from you, actually, and I never had a chance to thank you for this, is if you remember, you had educated my audience at the Internet Sales 20 group that Facebook isn't considered a social media platform. You haven't considered yourselves a social media platform for many years. I believe you had said, and correct me if I'm wrong, something to the effect of that we are a mobile media marketing platform. Is that still correct today? Or what's the official identity that you guys...
Yeah. So when it comes to businesses, okay, businesses buy media space from Facebook. So as it relates to doing business with a business, we're a media platform. Our numbers globally, 3 billion plus users, right? And I just gave you the US numbers. We're one of, I have to be careful because it's not, legal would probably get me in trouble, but one of the world's largest media platforms.
That's amazing.
Right? So businesses, again, buy media space from us. They don't buy social space. Social is simply our functionality or our content. So that's how you have to look at it.
And the reason why I bring that up, because I think it's an important distinction, because for some people still, they think of social media as a toy or as a pastime or as, something that's not viable for business or to be thought of like radio or TV, which I think is insane. And I remember your presentation because I actually used the same thing previously before of how long it took for radio to reach 50 million users, for TV to reach, 50 million users. So brother, I remember you, and I remember the presentation. You had an impact, and it's amazing to see how fast social media, specifically Facebook, has enveloped the world. Okay, so now with that being said, if I'm a dealership or a dealer group on a macro level, and I have to make an advertising choice, because you are a strong advertising executive, right? So this is a question I get all the time is, okay, what should my split be? I mean, like if I've got, the NADA says that the average dealership spends $64,000 a month in advertising. So if I got, let's just say use a round number, if I got $60,000 in advertising, how would you spend it?
Yeah. So first, let me just make sure I answer your previous question, because you talked about mobile. So when you talk about those numbers, I just gave you 225 million in the US, 179 a day. 95% of that is on a mobile device.
Oh my
okay?
gosh. 95.
So the reason why that's important, because I always then ask the dealers in the room, what percent of your traffic on your website is mobile or desktop? And without a pause, I always hear 80-20. 75, 25. So it's a mobile world, right? Like you can't deny that. So that's what we have to focus on. But here's what we work on with our dealer groups and anytime we're in a room, right? We have a playbook, and we've had it out for a couple years now, okay? And it's a full funnel strategy. It is not lead gen only. It is not CRM remarketing only. It's branding of your dealership, which we call Why Buy Here, which in my opinion is bar none the most important aspect of what you should be doing in media. It's followed by what we call a ready to buy strategy, which is then targeting those people that are showing a behavior that they're in market, and there's many signals that do that. That's where your VIN specific advertising comes in. It's dynamic ads, so you set it up once and let it go. Then it comes to your most profitable strategy, and I'll be a little bold on this. Only because I've seen thousands of reports, but CRM remarketing on Facebook will most likely be bar none the most profitable strategy a dealer can run. When you target your CRM list and match it back to sales and ROs, the numbers are through the roof. And then followed by events. Believe it or not.
Pause. You just got me excited. I'm starting to feel chills. Explain. I get this, but some of our audience is like, what do you say? You know what I mean? So explain that again. Exactly how does a dealer do that?
Well, you know what, Sean, that's a great question. And before we have Bob answer, I want you to re-ask the question, but I do want to remind everyone to make sure they subscribe to the podcast. If this is valuable information to you or anyone who you know, definitely subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review. If you got some value out of today or any other podcast episode you've listened to, just go ahead and leave us a review. We 100% appreciate it. So what was your question again, Sean?
How can a dealer go into their CRM And obviously you could export, leads and customers into a CSV file and load it into Facebook's ad manager. But how do you match them to ROs and sales? That's the question I want you to answer right now.
Yep. So let me just tell you how you actually execute it. I'll sum it up real quick. Export your lease maturity list. Export your sold not service list. Export your equity mine list. Whatever the list is, export it, import it into our system. That's the audience we're going to target and target only. Well, the same way you export and import an audience to target against, you can export your sales data, import into Ads Manager, and we know who we delivered the ad to, right? So we just simply do a match. So ad delivered to profile. Salesperson, person sold, did it match? Great, we give you a number. And that's not CRM only, by the way. That's for any campaign that you run on Facebook. So that's what we want people to measure their advertising on, by the way, is sales, not lead gen or close rates or anything of that. How much money did I spend on your platform? How many people did I reach? And out of those people that I reached, who came in and bought a vehicle, a part or accessory, or executed an RO? Simple math.
Listen, if I could bust some shots right here, that's hot. Because you know what I'm so tired of, brother? I'm tired of some of these parasitic vendors that are going to turn around and just dazzle with VDPs, SRPs, views and hits, but they don't generate an opportunity to do business. I've got dealers that we audit in our group, in the Millionaire Car Salesman group, that they're spending $10,000 in a month on PPC, the website, and other APIs to drive traffic to the website. But then I say, how many leads did you generate? And I run a quick report in the CRM, and they're like 67 leads or 80 leads. And I'm like, if you do the cost per lead acquisition and cost per sale, calculations, they're out of whack. So it's really an awesome thing to hear from you, to say that it's not just about the views, what actually resulted in revenue generated, and is there an ROI? Because that's how I believe you should judge your marketing, is not just for the opportunities, but also for the final outcome. Did you move the needle or not? Agreed?
Listen, a larger percent of your customers are not going to give you a signal that they were interested to buy from you. So how do you measure that? Right? How do you measure the percentage of people that told you they didn't submit a lead, maybe they didn't click on a VDP, maybe they didn't come to your, maybe they came to your website, but you have no idea, right? If they did or didn't, unless you ask.
Right.
So let's go back to your question. I have $64,000. How do I spend it? That's my passion. This is my passion right there. And it's called media mix modeling, which is as simple as this. Chart out on a spreadsheet everything you buy for your advertising and marketing. And you have to include the platforms that you use and the cost of those platforms to execute it, like your equity mining tool, right? Like maybe your CRM, because you need that tool in order to execute the advertising and marketing. So there's a cost to that. You can't just look at the cost of the media. So just list it out. Sean, I have a slide now. I have a version 2 of what you've seen. And I simply put up a slide that simply asks dealers, do you know what you're buying? If right now I said, tell me everything you're buying, could you do that? I've had thousands of dealer principals and GMs come up to me and say, man, you just punched me in the face, because advertising and marketing is my second largest expense or my third largest expense, which it is. But I have no idea what I'm buying. I have someone over there that does it for me.
Right.
How do you not know that? It's the biggest one of the biggest components outside of your floor plan of your dealership, right? So I always challenge dealers, first and foremost, you have to know what you're buying. You have to, and list it out, right? Then it's simple math. List it all out, put the cost. How many cars did you sell? There's your PVR. There's your cost per car. Car sold as it relates to advertising, at the very least, right? At the very least, you at least have that. So then one would say, okay, well, man, that doesn't look good. Or how do I change it? How do I improve it? Well, that's where you start changing the model. It could be, okay, I spend a lot on TV. Could I not spend a lot of TV, pocket some of that money, spend it elsewhere, and get a better result than what I was doing on TV. Okay. I believe you can. We have what's called a media replacement strategy, which is, if my media platform could replace another media platform that you currently buy and give you the same results, if not better, except my media platform is a tenth of the cost, would you do it? Well, yeah, because then you get to pocket 90% back to your bottom line, which does what? Increases gross, increases profit. So I have a huge passion for dealers. First and foremost, understanding everything you're buying. Just map it out. You'd be surprised.
With that being said, can you give me an estimate? NADA's ranges, and this is pre-pandemic, so I don't know what is getting dilapidated right now, but it used to be $640 per car from NADA and $380 per car from NCM standards, which is like the private 20 group in our industry. What would you say if somebody was going to invest it properly? That's the key too. Just because there's a lot of like maniacs out there running around doing Facebook ads and things like that, but they're not really trained properly or official Facebook partners. So I'm going to qualify the question by saying, if it's done properly, okay? So for example, at your level, you work for Facebook directly. If you were given a budget of, let's just say, $10,000 to spend it however Bob decided to spend it, what could you estimate the cost per lead and approximately cost per sale that we'd be able to see ROI wise? And again, I can't hold you to it. I just want a range so I could try to correlate this.
Yeah. And listen, you said one thing that we're ultimately trying to change the mindset, which is this cost per lead concept, right? Which is, I need to capture a form lead because the business is changing, right? Let's talk about just messaging, and then I'll get to I'll get to your question. But what we're seeing is people will start messaging a dealer, and a dealer has outsourced the message, outsourced the conversation to a third party. And then that third party's only goal is to do one of two things: try to set an appointment or capture contact information. But that's not human behavior. I'm messaging your business because I want to have a conversation with you.
Right.
I'm behind my screen. You have a whole generation that only knows how to communicate via their cell phone. So the second you say, well, hold on, I don't want to communicate with you over your cell phone. Can you give me your email address so we can move this to email? It's counterintuitive, right? Like it's called, conversational commerce. Like we have to engage just because they're not physically in the store or they didn't physically give you their contact information yet does not mean that they're not a prospect. So we don't focus on cost per leads. We don't focus on lead gen at all. We have those units. We'll drive plenty of leads. What I actually want you to focus on is the cost of all of your lead gen, the cost of your advertising, and then get to your cost per car sold or your overall cost per sale.
Here, I'm going to push back, and not in a bad way, but just here, I'm thinking like a typical dealer, right? If I'm a dealer, I know that you're trying to change the paradigm, and I'm a Covey student, and it's imperative, see, do, get. The way that you perceive things is going to influence what you do, and the way that you do something is going to directly, correlate to your results. So I get it. We need to change the paradigm to people out there, but until we do, if I'm a typical dealer, here's what I know. You know what? I'm spending, $4,000 a month on Auto Trader, and I'm selling X amount of cars. And so I have X amount of leads. So I can see it's costing me $29 per lead, and I'm selling, 4 cars. My average cost per sale is, let's just say $1,000. If I have, for example, let's just say PPC, this is what that is. If I've got auto web leads, it's this. So just for that, I'm going to push you back into it and give me a range. If I'm looking at my auto web leads and I'm paying, $18 per lead that's there, how do I turn around and correlate that with Facebook advertising, Instagram advertising?
Yeah, I mean, so listen, this is a whole change of mindset, right? So you have a cost per lead from Auto Trader, but what did everything else that you bought from Auto Trader do? Right? Like here's a story for you.
Yeah.
I was working with a group. Okay. And listen, I totally get it. Right. As a general manager, I want to be able to say, okay, I got X amount of people. I closed X amount of people. I can verify it. It's easy math. It's an easy number. There's systems in place to do that for me, except they forget about all this other money they've been spending over here. That doesn't equate to a lead, but it actually did something, right? But they don't care. right? So frankly, you could say, well, just don't buy any of the other stuff. Just go buy leads. There's plenty of lead gen providers out there. Then
Right.
why would you do anything else? Don't do TV, don't do radio, just buy leads and see how you, but they don't do that because they know that's not how marketing works, right? So one of the things that we work with the dealers on is just that, right? Which is you have to understand everything that you're buying. And Facebook, while we may not get the click, okay, we drive roughly 30% of search. Okay, Google loves us because for every product or service that's advertised on our platform, that person may not click on our ad, but they end up going to Google and doing a search because they saw our ad. Who gets the credit? Google. Let's forget AutoTrade. I don't want to use any names. Take all of the endemics or portals or whatever we're calling them today, right? They're very large clients of ours. Okay, they spend a great deal of money for traffic acquisition, right? So they buy our people to bring to them to then resell to the dealers, right? So, and that's not necessarily a bad thing if the dealer's like, oh, good, I'll just buy it through them and I don't have to worry about doing it myself. But this is how media, lead gen, they don't work in a silo, okay? They all work together. The mix works together to actually drive overall performance versus individual performance. Now, I want you to know this. Like, I get it. Facebook can drive a great deal amount of leads. Okay, we've got people that spend 10 grand just on lead gen a month. But that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to close at a high rate. Right. So then someone says, well, Facebook doesn't work because their lead gen doesn't close at a high rate. Okay, well, what else did you do on our platform? Did you do any branding? We know that experience is now more important than price, which is why I used to have such a passion for providing that experience, which is what I have a huge respect for, because my platform or what we do on our side of the house then relies on what you do on your side of the house, right? We constantly get blamed from dealers that say, well, I spent all this money from you and I got all these people, but none of them bought, so your platform stinks. Is it my platform or your sales process? Let's talk about that.
Absolutely. I got Daisy here. I got my pug. She's the mascot for Dealer Synergy.
She likes what we're talking about.
Yeah, she does. She's like, wah, wah. All right. So again, what I'm hearing, what you're saying is it's not, so people need to not think of Facebook or like Facebook/Instagram advertising just as a pay-per-click type thing. It's also to Toma, top of mind awareness, branding, frequency, kind of like traditional media used to be. So it's kind of best of both worlds. Is it an accurate statement?
That's exactly right. We call it full funnel.
Okay, so there you go. So full funnel. And again, obviously I know that, but I want to walk our audience through it because some of this is confusing, because remember, everybody is trying to sell a dealer something. A dealer is a multi-million-dollar target for everybody to sell the next greatest thing. So obviously, lead source providers, third-party providers, online classifieds, they're selling their thing. Part of what I like about our podcast and the guests like yourself is that we're able to give the non-spin approach. Like, here's the reality of what this is, because you got to admit that social media is the newest media opportunity compared to radio and print and television. So it's still confusing for a lot of high-level people. And that's what I've also found. I'd like you to talk about that, is that when you have a high-level business owner that owns a dealer group that's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, but completely doesn't understand this, sometimes because they're ignorant or naive or just uninformed, their reaction is, well, let's just not do this because they don't understand it, which I think is irresponsible. So how do you overcome that? How do you overcome people that are either embarrassed or they're frustrated and they're just like, screw this, I'll just do what I know? How do you handle that?
Or even worse, executed a campaign with us via a partner that didn't do it correctly or sell it correctly. That's actually my worst scenario. That's the scenario. Is that last one.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, we're a do-it-yourself platform. The dealer can execute themselves. An agency can execute on behalf of the dealer going through our tools. Anybody can execute for anybody if they have the access to do that.
Okay, wait a minute. Let's stop right there real quick. Bob, this is important. So, but you know that that's not what's being pulled out in the automotive industry. There's a lot of people that are claiming partnerships with Facebook that I know and don't have partnerships with Facebook, like ad agencies, for example. And there's a lot of people saying that you have to go through them. You can't do this by yourself. So am I correct understanding that like you can mow your own lawn or you could have a landscaper. So there, but you don't have to go through an agency or a Facebook partner. If Facebook creates the resources that at a dealership or a dealer group can do themselves. Is that what I'm hearing?
We listen, Facebook, outside of being founded by Mark Zuckerberg, our executive team is from Google, who built the do-it-yourself platform from day one. Our platform is a do-it-yourself platform that was very complicated to use in the beginning, don't get me wrong, but it's gotten easier. Now, listen, like there's great value in the agencies that do it right? And my team supports 4 of them, okay? And then we've got another team that supports, I think it's about 30 to 35 agencies to do it right. That's what I don't care who executes the campaign.
My analogy with the landscaper, no, I agree. I don't mow my own lawn. You know what I mean? Like I have a great landscaper, and he does a great job with it. But what I'm saying though is that you don't have to do it that way. You don't have to go to the landscaper route. So is there any tools or resources that a dealer will not have access to that a partner would, a Facebook agency partner would?
Not as it relates to working with our platform. The only what an agency could bring is creative solutions.
And I'm talking about, it's the actual. So I want to be clear to everybody listening to this is that I support the agencies that are officially partnered with Facebook Automotive's retail division without a doubt, just like I support landscapers. You know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to do it myself unless I'm an expert at it. However, what Bob is saying is that, if you wanted if you wanted to learn how to do it the right way, you can in fact execute Facebook and Instagram marketing correctly. Now, does Facebook provide resources for an internet manager or marketing manager to learn how to do this stuff the right way? How does a manager that's in charge of a dealership or dealer group's marketing advertising learn how to do Facebook advertising marketing the right way?
Yep. So we have a dealer playbook that we launched a couple years ago that is more of a how-to guide, right?
How do they get that?
Say that again?
How does everybody listening get that?
Yep. So we have a dealer hub that I will send to you that when this gets edited, that can come on the screen, that when they go to the dealer hub, there are 2 documents. One, there's a playbook, and then there's another document we created in April when COVID was in full force that just talks about our free tools that dealers should just use, right? Like how to pin a post, how to use Messenger, how to create a story, right? These are free that should just be used anyway. So we wanted to make sure we brought them to the surface so that dealers could use. So we have a hub that a dealer can go to and they can download and start reading. We've got some training.
Is there any live help?
There's no live help in terms of supporting execution. The only help that we have is support. When if a dealer is spending with us and they run into an issue, they can do a chat.
So they do. So you do have support though. If, obviously if somebody's investing money, and trying to do ads, they can call or they could chat or something to get some direction.
When there's an issue, like something's broken, not necessarily, hey, can you help me go into the system and execute the buy? What button should I press? It's more like, hey, I got locked out of my account, or I don't have access to my Facebook page. Can you help me do that?
All right. So the playbook is one thing. Now, obviously, that's in written format, or is that in video format as well, too?
It's in written format, and we have some, let's just be honest, some old videos up there that more or less have some how-to, but they're a little outdated, I'll be honest. And
listen, maybe I can help you with that, brother. Like we talked about before the interview, maybe I can help you. I got a whole video team, and I see value in what you do. But let me do this because this is so intriguing. I want to pivot really quick, though, because of time, your time, and for this podcast. Is individual people. If you think about it, there's 16,500 franchise dealerships in the United States approximately. There's an additional 40 to 50,000 independent dealerships and buy here, pay here. So we're talking about 50 to 60,000 car dealerships in the United States alone. Forget about Canada and overseas and all that other stuff. So we're talking about literally we have about 400,000 to 500,000 automotive professionals that are on the showroom floor, whether it's franchise or independent. Do those numbers correlate with what you've seen research-wise?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so if there's up to 500,000 salespeople versus only up to 50,000 dealerships, I see that there's a major opportunity for individual people. See, one of the beautiful aspects about car sales is that you can make as much money as you can earn, but there's a catch. The key word is earn, which means that you've got to be able to not wait for the magic up bus. You've got to be able to do it yourself. And before the interview, I talked to you and I kind of showed you what Tiana was doing, my daughter from T Got Your Keys, and her website, how she has her own Build-A-Brand website. She's got Google Analytics on there. She's got Facebook retargeting pixel on there. And she's also, has her own Facebook ad manager account. And she is, driving both Instagram display and video ads, as well as, Facebook display and video ads. And one ad she had that was kind of famous, she spent $6 on targeting and with display, not even video, display, an LGBT community ad, which prompted a woman to drive an hour and 20 minutes and buy a used car with a $3,500 gross profit. When you hear a story like that and you see with your own eyes that happened, what does that make you feel like as being an executive from Facebook?
I mean, that's what our platform is built for, right? The personalized experience. But here's the summary of that, right? So you have this dealership that has multiple components. I've got sales, new and used, right? I've got service. I got parts and accessories, right? So they're, they have a portfolio of offerings. But when you go to the dealership, what does the sale consist of? A person. You have to work with a person that ultimately ends up being the brand of the dealership, right? So the dealer has to advertise the why buy here. Why should you consider buying from my store? Because by the way, there's 4 other ones with the same name, right? Or the same vehicles on their lot within an 8-mile radius of me. But then when I get into the store, right, I'm not working with the store. I'm working with a human being, right? So what does that personalized experience look like for that human being? And your daughter did it exceptionally well, which is, hey, here's why you should buy from me, right? She doesn't talk about price. She doesn't talk about the negotiation of it. She's like, you should buy from me, and here's why. And listen, research is already out. It's experience, the experience of the dealership as to why people choose where they purchase from. It isn't the price of the car, right? Every month there's a sale. Right? Every month there's a payment that you actually, that gets reworked the second you get into the store anyway, right? Everybody knows that. So now we have a generation that A, may not come to the store and want to buy online, right? Or B, when they come to the store, they want to spend less time, right? And C, they know they're going to work with a person. So what is that experience going to look like? No, if you don't advertise it, they'll never know. So they won't even consider you. So I love what your daughter's doing, because that's exactly what she should be doing, is advertising herself.
How much involvement do you have in your team? Because you work with the top 10 dealer groups, which is pretty obviously impressive. And they're the top of the food chain speaking. But do those dealer groups have a strategy for their individual salespeople, their individual managers, their service writers to be on social media, themselves, to drive more service ROs, to drive more sales, to them? Because if you think about it, an individual person, even on a minute level, is an influencer to their circle of friends and family, et cetera. So let me let you answer the question. Do you have any of your clients focus on a micro strategy for their sales reps, their service writers, or their managers?
It's more guidelines than it is a strategy, right? Which is, if you're going to represent my brand, right, which is the dealership brand, then you must follow these guidelines more than, hey, we're going to empower you to do this, and we've got these tools for you to do that, or we're going to financially support you to do X, Y, Z. It's more, if you're going to use your own personal platform to help sell, then here are the guidelines you must follow.
what do you think about my idea? I believe that it should be way more than that. I believe sincerely and passionately that dealer groups and dealerships should be teaching and training these salespeople and service writers to build their own business within their dealership. And one of the easiest, fastest, cost-effective ways is through Facebook and Instagram, through social media advertising. And we talked about offline is that if you think about what the OEMs do, the OEMs have co-op money. They incentivize the dealerships, like let's just use an FCA. They incentivize on certain models. That's why certain dealers will, are volume dealers because of all the money that they could earn in back-end money, stair-step money, etc. To me, it just makes sense. Instead of opening up 10 brick and mortar facilities, I could have 10, 20 virtual dealerships, or social beacons, if you will. And so what is your thought on that now that I'm kind of presenting that idea that I think that there should be some type of strategy and encouragement that dealerships have on a dealership level or dealer group level to empower their people to really leverage the true power of marketing, advertising, and branding through social, Facebook, and Instagram?
225 million adults 18 plus on our platform every month, 179 a day, right? So we know we have prospects and we know we have existing owners. So now it's just a matter of getting to them. And it goes back to what I said earlier, which is, yes, you have a dealership brand, but the second you engage with the dealership, it then becomes personal with the person that you're working with. So I fully agree that there should be a strategy in place to empower the salespeople. I believe when I was selling back in the 90s, it was a while ago, I believe I was a 1099 employee. So I was like kind of my own business anyway, right? I was my own business within the business. Now, then there wasn't social media and Facebook didn't exist and Instagram didn't exist, et cetera. But we were empowered, obviously, to go out and find our clients however we chose to do that. Right. So that's what Facebook and Instagram also allows the personalized side of the house for the people that are selling to do.
Brother, check this out, because we're going to end on this. I have a hard stop in a couple seconds. Anyway, I took a ton of your time. But in my magic mirror right here on the screen, if the center of the universe, I'm trying to get the camera right there, is the dealership. If the dealership has got a circumference around it that's got a Facebook and Instagram strategy, that I do believe part of it should be inventory-based, like RO-based, things like that, okay? Those are the traditional type things. Then if you think about it, if I've got a salesperson like Tiana, and this is my daughter, she is in the LGBT community. So she could turn around and target the LGBT because it's authentic. She's also a female. Females have over 80% buying power, and they influence over 60% of truck sales. So now this particular salesperson can target the LGBT community, the female community, the females. And she also lives in Reading, Pennsylvania. There's a major factory there called DECA. Okay. And she's got family that works in DECA. So she could target the DECA employees, etc. Then my nephew, who also sells cars, he's a car nut. He's an enthusiast, Fast and Furious type stuff. He loves cars, but he's also with the captain of the football team. He's a football coach now to high school kids. So now he could target the people that are into football, cars, and things like that. So my idea, I might be a maniac in the laboratory, but to me, a dealership, if they really strategize and leverage their people in their strengths, their passions, their community stuff, whether it's PTA, I believe that the dealership authentically can cover so much more ground with their people. Another quick one is military. I was in the reserves or ROTC, but there's a lot of people that are still in the reserves, or they just came home, from and they've been honorably discharged. There's so many different subcategories with interest levels that if a dealership uses a cohesive strategy, they can cover it all instead of just throwing money out the door for antiquated methods. Would you agree?
Completely agree. Absolutely. I mean, that's the point of the platform, more or less, right?
All right. I have one last statement that I'm going to let you close us out. So the statement is I believe that every person on the floor and service writers. These are frontline, people in a dealership compared to middle management, executive management. They should really invest in themselves, almost like real estate agents are trained after real estate school to do billboards, do this and that. They're not going to wait for, Century 21 to give you, clients to sell, that you could sell them houses. I think that our industry doesn't have enough people that are proactive to generate their own, like the Ali Radas or the Cody Carters. Do you believe, it's a setup question, do you believe that, Facebook and Instagram advertisement is also good on an individual level?
Absolutely. 100%.
I just wanted you to say that, but good. Okay. So now, Bob, with all your experience, from when you sold cars before to working with Facebook and Instagram, what do you want to close out with our audience? Like, what do you want to leave them with?
This is what I'll say. I personally don't care exactly how you execute on Facebook, whether you do it yourself or you use an agency. But what I care about is that you maximize our platform and how it should be used. It should be full funnel. You should hit branding advertising, whether that's for the dealership or for yourself, right? You then have to have that lower funnel advertising for VIN specific, fit for VIN specific purposes. You got your CRM. You have to use all of it. You can't just use one or the other. Because again, I'll go back. Media platforms work together. They don't work in a silo. And our platform, because we have a large amount of people on it, can be completely full funnel. And here's what I'll close with, and I'll just give you something to think about. When we see dealerships run brand advertising, while at the same time, run their lower funnel advertising, VIN specific, lead gen, et cetera, they see greater results in their lower funnel advertising versus if they only ran lower funnel advertising and didn't run branding. It's basic consumer behavior. I call it the meet and greet, right? I never had a script that said, "Hi, welcome to Toyota Sarasota. Can I have your name, number, email address, and are you going to buy from me?" It was a "Hi, welcome. I look forward to spending time with you. What are you in for?" Right? The best closers are better openers. Well, your opener is your brand.
Awesome. Absolutely. Absolutely awesome. All right. Listen, thank you so much for your time and your knowledge. I look forward to having you back on the podcast, and I definitely look forward to seeing your posts in the group. And then you're going to send me the link for the dealer playbook, correct?
I'm going to do that right now.
All right. Awesome. So thank you, my friend. I appreciate your time.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you like it, you love it, you want more of it, then don't wait for the next money show. Just go to BradleyOnDemand.com and take your career to the next level. If you enjoyed this podcast, then make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and leave us a review. Let some other folks know about it. Oh, and don't forget to join the Millionaire Car Salesman group on Facebook. We'll see you there.